And welcome another episode of Hold My Cutter. We're coming your way here, burned by Rocky Patel, right down the street from PNC Park on the North Shore. We're talking to another Pittsburgh native. He's our guest. We're going to talk to him in just a moment, but first, he and Michael McHenry surprised us. Of course, here at Burned by Rocky Patel, plenty of assortments of cigars, a lot of Rockies, a lot of Rocky Patels, but this one, Fort, you've gone with the Fat Bottom Betty.
Yeah, go ahead and say it one more time.
The Fat Bottom Betty.
That could be a rap song. I really believe so.
By Deadwood.
Yeah, by Deadwood, which we do not want. We want to have good, crisp, hard, firm wood that really explodes off the bat. You know what I mean? Josh
Wilson is the one you and he got together back at the Humidor and decided on this.
We did.
You're a longtime cigar smoker, Josh. Not a fan of Deadwood. This Deadwood you're okay with.
Don't want the Deadwood. Looked like I was swinging Deadwood quite often, I'm sure. But
there's hits in those woods every now and then.
You know, hey, man, that's right. Keep them in front of the outfielders with the Deadwood. Let them fall in. But no, the cigar's great. It's perfect. Fat bottom.
Sweet taste.
Little sweetness on the wrapper there. It's wonderful.
It is. And the nickname, I know you want to know.
Yeah, let's go.
It's the Slump Buster.
So anyway, we're here with Josh Wilson.
Go.
Josh Wilson, our guest, the Pittsburgh native, who lifetime baseball grinder, a lot of years in the big leagues, 12 organizations, I believe, but 9 major league teams, 8 years in the big leagues, a former Mount Lebanon high school star. We had Don Kelly in one of our Hold My Cutter episodes, talking to him about his career in high school out at Mount Lebanon and then Point Park College and then the big leagues. He said, without a question, Josh Wilson was by far the best ball player he'd ever seen in high school. What do you remember about those days?
Well, I'll say this first. Donnie Kelly, my first experience playing travel baseball, I was 8 years old and Donnie was 9. And
going
so
way
I played
back.
going way back.
Machine.
And so playing with him, Donnie was the best baseball player I'd ever seen as an 8-year-old. Donnie was the best player in Little League, and then it took him a while to finally blossom. But DK equally as good on the Little League diamond. But you know, yeah, I may have peaked in high school. Things went well for us back then. We had a lot of good players in Mount Lebanon. You know, and obviously having a dad as a coach was probably the biggest benefit to me. As a young player, I was just I got a lot more opportunity to work and get better in practice than most kids around here did. So that's probably I have to give a lot of credit to my dad for my early success.
Of course, talking about Mike Wilson, legendary coach, a lot of years at Duquesne, and just one of the great baseball names in Western Pennsylvania. His dad, Mike Wilson, will talk throughout this episode with Josh about his dad and his teammates and about being drafted out of Mount Lebanon. Now, you had a chance. I guess you were recruited by LSU, but I think I read something, Josh, you said it was not even a question, that you wanted to go to pro ball pretty much immediately.
Yeah. I wanted to go play pro ball, absolutely. You know, signing with LSU was always my dream. I had a cousin, Brad, that was from Fox Chapel, that ended up going down to LSU, won 2 national titles down there.
Wow.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Cousin.
My
That's
cousin
so
Brad,
cool.
yeah. So Brad won 2 national titles. He was kind of, you know, my idol as a player growing up.
What position?
He DH and played third base. So Brad, in the year that they hit the walk-off, Warren Morris, the walk-off home run, Brad was had the ass-out double down the third base line.
Wow.
So it was the tying run in that game.
Brad Wilson.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
That
Sick
is something.
is that?
yeah. So 2 national titles at LSU. Looked up to him a ton, and you know, really that was my first dream. Was I thought I was going to go there, and up until my senior year, I did not think I was going to get drafted. I mean, I thought I was going to LSU, but you know, once things started taking shape as far as getting drafted, I wanted to go play. I didn't need any more school. I was ready to just go play baseball. And yeah, it was really a no-brainer for me.
That's awesome.
Third rounder Marlins, 1999. We've asked other ball players we've had on the show from Western Pennsylvania, had they thought about the Pirates, and you had to be thinking about that.
Yeah, I don't want to knock the Pirates at all, but I thought I was going to get drafted by them. I'd heard they'd said that if I was available in the second round, they were probably going to take me. They ended up going with Ryan Doman instead. I think it worked out for him a little better. He had a nice career here with the Pirates. But yeah, I thought I might end up a Pirate, and it didn't work out that way. Ended up slipping to the third round with the Marlins. But grew up a Pirate fan. Grew up in those early years in the 90s with Bonds and Bonilla, Van Slyke. I mean, they were great teams. It's kind of funny that throughout my career, I'd tell people I was from Pittsburgh, and they'd ask if I was a Pirate fan, growing up, with kind of that look on your face like, oh man, the Pirates. But as a kid, they were the best team in baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, they had star players. I mean, you have Barry Bonds, maybe the best player that this generation's ever seen. And so I love the Pirates, loved going to Three Rivers Stadium. Got down to one playoff game against the Braves.
Which one? Not the Bob Walk game.
No, it was an NLCS game. I think it was a game 1 or 2. You'd have to check me on that. I can't quite remember which year that was. I think that would have been 91. But yeah, one of those series against the Braves. And yeah, a lot of great memories of waiting outside, trying to get some autographs outside.
Do you remember any
Three
moment,
Rivers.
any autographs in particular?
No, I just remember. I remember one time standing outside the clubhouse looking for guys, and Bonds came out wearing one of those like '80s like Bill Cosby sweaters.
Yeah.
And wasn't the best look. I mean, but it was the times back then. But
he let us play talk.
Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah. I don't think he'd quite fixed the wardrobe by that point. But no, I remember looking at Bonds, trying to yell at him. He had this great big colorful sweater on, and nope, drove off. No autographs that.
No chance.
No autographs that night.
You didn't catch it on good night. I'm sure any other day, but just bad luck.
Yeah, bad luck that day.
Shoot, we'll get them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Were there spots at Three River Stadium that you remember used to make sure you sat at, or all over the place?
We just took wherever we could get. Definitely, mostly we sat in the outfield quite often. It seemed like we were always above the visitors' bullpen out there. And I can remember yelling down at some Mets bullpen guys, trying to get them to throw some balls up. Some friends of mine, screaming at guys and, see if we could get a ball, which didn't work out well for us either. Just that old ballpark, and you could run around the whole place just doing laps around there. So, yeah, used to run around and try to sit wherever. Hope the ushers didn't kick you out when you tried to venture too close to the dugouts or get closer to the field. But
so you never had a chance to play at Three Rivers. You did at PNC Park. Do you remember your first game there?
I do. I think I only got to. I may have gotten into a couple games. I think I only started one game there, and I think I punched out 3 times.
Of course,
that's okay. Memorable.
Yeah,
nothing else.
Did not go too well. Yes, that's about par for the course for me. That was one of the coolest experiences of my life, getting a chance to come back and get an opportunity to play at PNC. I mean, there's no better setting for baseball in our game as far as I'm concerned, and getting to be there and play against Neil Walker, getting to talk to him and see him on the field and have my family and friends in the stands was pretty spectacular.
Josh Wilson, who's finished up some time in scouting with the Detroit Tigers, spent some time on the TV side, Pirates pre- and post-game show.
Yeah, I want to go back to the draft process, right? So you're a junior, you're thinking you're going all into LSU. What was the moment that shifted your mind that this is real, I could be a higher draft pick than I wanted? Was there also a round? And what were some of the other teams? Because same as you, I think we've heard a lot of stories where guys think they're going to get drafted by a certain team and they don't. Kind of talk about that, that process of when you decided, this is real, and then that week up to, I think, is the craziest time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had gotten selected to play for the junior national team heading into my senior year of high school, and unfortunately there was an incident. We were supposed to go play in the fall down in Bogota, Colombia, but there was a big event down there, some terrorist stuff, and so that got canceled. It got pushed to the spring. Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was like a busload of nuns got like blown up. It was an awful thing. Yeah,
holy cow.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. But that was kind of when I started to know, is when I'd gotten selected for Team USA, and I ended up in the springtime, and I missed some of my high school season to go play in the Pan American Games, which got switched to Caracas, Venezuela. And when I went down for those, like the workouts, the Baseball America stuff had started coming out. I don't know exactly the timing, but, they had listed me in the top 30 players heading into the draft. And I had heard from, a couple teams, Baltimore and San Diego in particular, had a ton of early picks that year. I think San Diego had like 7 first-round picks with the supplemental rounds and everything, and Baltimore had like 6. And I thought for sure I was going to one of those two teams. I'd made the decision before the draft to attend the Pirates pre-draft workout here in Pittsburgh rather than go down to Baltimore. I think they were holding theirs on the same day. So I don't know if that affected, my draft status going in. But it was really that spring and playing for Team USA and kind of having a good tournament there that, I really started to understand that there was a good chance I was going to get drafted pretty high. And as soon as I knew that there was an opportunity to get in a spot where I could get a little bit of a signing bonus and kind of set myself on a good path, as a young kid, that's what I wanted to do.
Nice. Did you medal?
We did. We took the bronze there, so we qualified.
Just bronze in I think they call it the Premier 12 now.
Yeah,
minor league side.
So I've always tried to go back and figure out who some of the players were on those teams. It's funny. So when I signed, Miguel Cabrera had signed, shortly after as a 16-year-old. So I didn't get to play with him that first year. But Miguel, told me that he was in the stands, that he went to those games, was watching.
How cool.
So I know Miguel was there, at least saw a couple of those games in Caracas. But the Cuban team, we lost to Cuba twice. So we lost to Cuba in the round robin round, and then again in the medal round, I believe.
Okay. What a cool experience, though, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was really, really cool. A lot of really good players from around the country. It was a little interesting because of the timing, since they'd had to push it to the spring. A lot of the better players decided not to go. So the Josh Beckett and Josh Hamilton and some of the really, the really high picks from that year decided to stay home and just play their high school season. So we still had a great team. But there were some guys that ended up having really, really good careers that were supposed to go play in the fall that ended up not going in the spring. So we still did all right, though.
Yeah.
You became pretty good buddies with Miguel Cabrera, didn't you?
Yeah, so Miguel and I spent, basically, our first, 3-4 seasons. So like I said, so Miguel, was still too young to come play on the Gulf Coast League team. He was there, and he worked out with us. And then we got to play together in the instructional league that year. The following year, we ended up being in extended spring training, and then he played in the Gulf Coast League and eventually came to Utica at the end of the year, played together there. And then the following 3 seasons in Kane County and Loway, Florida State League in Jupiter, and then started the year together in Carolina in Double-A, and he didn't last there very long. That was the year he got called up and hit his walk-off home run in his first game.
Could you see it?
You saw a ton of bat speed, really talented guy. Miguel was one of these guys that doesn't probably get a whole lot of credit for just how athletic he is. He could do things that were just, spur of the moment. He was the guy that he'd take infield, and he'd just goof around. He'd close his eyes and throw balls to first base and hit the guy in the chest. He'd do no-look stuff. He could, throw the ball through his legs. He could do all these things as a young player. He just had such control of his body, such awareness on the field. And then you get to be as big and strong as he is with that kind of body control, and obviously you see what happens with him. But yeah, you could definitely see that there were some things that he just did on a field that were just different from everybody else from an early age, for sure.
Well, I remember you for a long time. He was wearing Duquesne Duke basketball T-shirts.
Come on.
Or baseball T-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
Anything Duquesne Dukes. You gave him a bunch of Duke swag.
Yeah. So my dad, every time he came to town, as soon as the college season was over, and my dad throws the best BP. If you won't find anybody that's ever taken BP off him that would disagree with that. And so as soon as his season was done at Duquesne, he'd make a trip, come out, and he'd be begging to throw BP on the field. And usually our coaching staffs were pretty nice, and they'd let him throw. But he'd always bring a dozen Duquesne shirts and hand them out to all my teammates. And
great.
maybe I'm making this up, but I think the first time Miguel got one, he put it on, took BP with it, or maybe he wore it under his jersey, but had a good game, and I think the rest was history. I think he got some hits, or maybe hit a homer, or whatever it was, and
that's all it takes.
That's all it took. And then he never took that thing off for a long time. He was wearing it, and
like forever.
Yeah,
he always wear it. You got your call up September of 2005. I think you made your debut September 7th, 2005. We love these stories of how you get told. And did you know like 3, 4, 5 days ahead of time, and how?
I knew
What?
a lot. My AAA manager, Dean Trainer. Dino, one of the
Ended up doing
most.
some
legend.
pirate stuff.
Yeah. Dino, probably.
First psychopath ever really met.
The psychopath,
Yeah.
Dean Trainer.
What a great human.
I mean, definitely he has to lead the Arizona Fall League in ejections for sure. I think he got ejected
It's got to be hard to do.
It's got to be hard to do,
great.
but he got ejected, I think, like 3 times the one year I played for him out there, and I think they told him if he got ejected again, they were sending him home.
Oh, what a beaut.
But yeah, that's Dino. Probably my favorite guy I've ever played for.
Man.
And we had a great relationship.
He was a player's guy.
Absolutely.
Such a good
Absolutely.
player's coach.
guy, took care of all his players, defended all his players to no end.
Probably did his demise at times.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, well, you have to wonder about what happens to a guy like that, because he was such a...
I've never heard a bad thing about a player.
All the players loved him. And how's he not in somewhere? You know, I couldn't believe it.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure there are probably plenty of people that, kind of from the PD side and player development that just, maybe didn't appreciate the way he went about things. But 100% the players all did for sure. He always had your back, and you knew what you were going to get with him every day. Treated you with respect. All he asked was when you got to the field, you showed up, you did your work, and you played hard. But he wanted you to go out and have a good time too, and he was certainly. I know he'd get out and have a good time himself.
Yeah.
So Dino, absolutely one of the best. But so he told me. I mean, I feel like it might have been like it was like the homestand or a couple homestands before the end of the season. I mean, I knew. More than a week before I was going to the big leagues.
Just keep it quiet.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah.
It was. I think it was bad. I had a lot of time to think about that
That's a
first
lot of
at bat.
thinking. Yeah.
You had to tell some people.
Oh yeah, I mean all my teammates knew. I mean they knew. Dino he told me he wanted to be the first to tell me. He didn't want somebody else. He
What about
wanted
your
to be the
folks?
one to let me know. And so yeah, I told they all knew I was going. So it was good for them too because they got to prepare and set up. Get their trips in order.
Which now they do for them, which is incredible.
Yeah, which is great. But yeah, so I think there was a little added pressure because I kind of knew a little too early and was thinking about it a lot. And
You're talking about weeks?
First big league experience wasn't great.
Well, yeah, but okay. So, what about in the minors when you're a big leaguer in your mind, and now you're like, what am I doing this for? I know I'm going to the big leagues in a week. That's got to be hard.
Yeah, it was hard. And, I was kind of scuffling towards the end of that AAA season. I was always kind of a streaky guy.
Were you in New Orleans?
It was Albuquerque.
Oh,
so it
good
was,
for you.
yeah, still in Albuquerque. Yeah, maybe the best place to hit in baseball. Great
It's like hitting
town.
on the moon.
Hitting on the
It
moon.
is.
And we had the best groundskeeper there. His name was Jared Alley. He's
It's an
fantastic.
immaculate ballpark.
Immaculate. And he cut the grass short, too. So the infield grass was lightning fast. It was a fast
nice.
infield.
Nice.
And the ball
Thank
absolutely
you.
flew.
Pitchers loved him.
Pitchers absolutely
But
hated
you were
that
a line
guy.
drive guy, so
But see, that
flying
was
probably
the
helped you
problem.
out. Yeah.
I thought I could hit homers hitting in Albuquerque, and I think I got a little happy at the end of the year, and I was scuffling bad. I had like 17 homers and I wanted 20 real bad, and it didn't work out. It didn't work out for me, and so I had a lot of time to think about that first at bat, and was heading into the big leagues with limited confidence.
Oh man.
So that debut is September 7th, 05. And I think against the Washington Nationals, you pinch hit in the 7th inning, pop up. And your first bench, by the way, we're going to get into this. The list of managers for whom you played is like an all-star list. The first one is Jack McKeon, Trader Jack.
Trader Jack. Jack was, Jack was. I don't want to be mean to Jack because he had a heck of a run, but definitely Jack was maybe a little past his prime at that point.
The definition of old school,
old, very very old school,
50s, 1950s.
Yeah, so it was a brief time with Jack, but I will say that that year was great. It was tough because I was not playing well that first time in the big leagues, but my first spring training the following year when I got sent down, he called me John. So, I'm not going to be too hard on him.
Yeah.
He's close, but I mean, geez, Jack put a lot into this game. I mean, a phenomenal career he had, and really cool to play for a guy like him for my first experience.
But how about your first hit that year? I think it's October 2nd against.
Wait. Do you remember your first at bat and who it was against?
Hector Carrasco, I think was the right name there. I popped up. Like I said, Brian, I popped up to right field. It came off the bat. I thought it was a foul ball. I didn't run. I almost had one of those where the ball ended up fair, and I'm standing at home plate. But I fouled it off to the right side, and I thought it was going back in the seats. And I'm looking around, I can't find the ball, and I look down and I see Carlos Baerga's playing second base, and he's hanging out on the first baseline or just down the first baseline about to make a catch. So I start running, and thank goodness he caught it and he didn't drop it and throw me out at first. That would have been a total disaster, but that was it. It was really,
Jack
really
would not
nervous.
like that. Jack McKeon would not like that. For the rookie not running.
No, not running out that first
what are
one.
you doing, John?
If he was watching, he'd probably be smoking a stogie in the dugout. He liked his stogies.
He definitely did. You never saw him without one most of the time. During the game was probably the only time you didn't see him without his cigar.
But
that's just because they wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
But how about hey Ford? You're like this. How about Josh Wilson's first hit though? Okay, against Atlanta, bottom of the 10th. A double off Kyle Davies. He scores the winning run on a hit by Juan Pierre. We got that right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. Kyle Davies. I think I'd faced him in the minor leagues a couple times. So it was like the first at bat I had up there where I knew the guy and was like, kind of gave me a little bit of comfortability. But I think I was down 0-2. I can't remember what I battled. I think I got him back to 2-2 or maybe 3-2. I got a breaking ball down in the zone and managed to get it just enough. Missed the walk-off homer by just a couple feet off the left field ball. Yeah,
wow.
It felt good, didn't it?
Felt really good. Would have felt better if I'd have walked off the season. It would have felt great. But I mean, just to get that first hit and be able to go in the off season without all those zeros.
Yeah.
I went into the off season with all those zeros. I know what it feels like.
Oh man, it's
those days turned into long
I turned to
days.
walk in. That's the only positive I had. Yeah.
But I also that game too. I got on base for the first time in the big leagues when I got into that game, and it was 99 off the back from Kyle Farnsworth. So,
and you're not going to charge him out.
Not going to let
Have
Kyle
you seen
do his
him
thing
lately,
out there.
by the way?
I've seen some of those posts he's made. He's still
yoked out of his
absolutely
mind.
jacked.
Ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like Clark Kent.
I mean, insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still got the glasses
Yeah,
on.
yeah.
It's like Clark Kent.
Clark Kent. He does think he's Clark Kent. Okay, so you go to the off season after that, and then you're traded, right?
Yeah, so I get traded that offseason. So I'll say this, too. Never got the ball from that first hit. So the
No.
Marlins never got it.
Why not?
Don't know. I gave it to our camera guy down there. He said, I'll take it. We'll get it. We'll do the frame, and we do all the stuff, and it disappeared.
Do you know the camera guy's name?
I don't remember.
Shame on you, camera guy.
What
Yeah,
in the
but
world?
Lost the first hit in the big leagues. Never got it. But so that offseason, I ended up getting traded to the Rockies.
Tell us what that's like. Well, you get the call. Who calls you? Somebody from obviously the Marlins system. Or could have been Rockies.
I can't
GM.
remember. I think the first call I got was from the Rockies. I'm not
Okay.
sure if
What year was that?
This was in the off season of 2005. So it was I think it was in December. It was just before Christmas, maybe early December or something, in 2005. I can't remember if, Mike Hill or somebody from the Marlins called to give me a heads up. I think he probably did. And then I got in touch with somebody from the Rockies. Maybe been Bill Guyvet. I think it was Bill Guyvet who initially
Assistant
reached
GM.
out to me. Yeah. So I think I got the call from him, and it was welcome to the Rockies. I was a young player with just a September call up, and I was out of options, so it was kind of a difficult spot for a young player having to make a team. But I went into camp that year with the Rockies and ended up breaking my toe in spring training.
How early, Josh?
This was.
And were you having a good spring at the time? If it wasn't early, you're feeling good about it?
I think it was probably right in the middle of camp. I think
Okay.
it was maybe in that second week of March.
Okay.
I fouled a ball off my toe, broke a little piece of that knuckle clean off. I mean, there was a break just right through the middle knuckle on my big toe. Ended up staying in that bat and hit a double.
No.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
That's
So,
a
you
yinzer.
know,
That's
I
a
mean,
yinzer
That's
right
a yinzer.
there.
Got a yinzer and
Stay in.
yalzer here.
tried
yeah.
to tough it out. I show up to camp the next day. I told the trainers, like, hey, my foot's really killing me. If I'm kind of limping around a little bit, I just want to let you know, like, it's, but I'm just going to go and try to work through it. And he's like, why don't we get you some x-rays? And sure enough, found out that there was a break. So I ended up getting 60-dayed out of spring training and go to my rehab assignment in Colorado Springs in June.
Another great place to hit.
Another great place.
But a
I played
weird
I
place.
played in all
Why?
the
What
best
makes it
ones.
weird? Why is it
Because
weird?
the wind, it is a good place to hit, but like weird things happen. It's just a weird place because the weather.
So their groundskeeper there too used to keep the grass extremely really long.
Oh.
And he watered the grass before like
Watered
every
it,
game,
yes.
so it was drenched. So like it could be 90 and
Everything opposite of Albuquerque.
Yeah, total opposite.
Yeah, opposite.
I mean, you like guys would throw balls away on the infield there because he absolutely just drenched the grass, and you'd get a ball
You
at
score,
shortstop and it was soaking wet.
You're exactly
Oh
right.
my
You
gosh.
score early.
Yeah,
Score early.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
it was nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so
It shouldn't have been I loved playing there, but it shouldn't have been a AAA field. The way it was taken care of.
No, it wasn't.
clubhouse is
it
great,
wasn't
though.
great. They had just built the new clubhouse there, and it was fantastic. We had a great group of guys there. Ryan Spielborg, so I'm sure you know, and
Oh,
he's
he's
doing.
great.
Yeah, he's
He
got
he took care of me as a rookie. Well, he hazed the crap out of me, and then took care of me.
Yeah, so Spilly was one of my roommates there in Colorado Springs. Man, we had a great time.
You guys probably had a great team that year because that's when all those big.
There's some
big
good
timers-
guys. Ryan Sheely, Jeff Salazar, Sean Barker. Yeah, there's a bunch of good players that made it to the big leagues that year. Ubaldo Jimenez came up and was there. Ubaldo was the only guy that you could have a fastball range from like 89 to 104.
Yeah, it was
I
nuts.
mean, just one pitch after the next. J.D. Klosser was our catcher, and I mean, he'd put down fastballs, and one would be 89, the next one would be like 102.
And that never changed.
He just,
nuts. Yeah.
it was absolutely
Who's
nuts.
this? J.D. Klosser?
J.D. Klosser was our catcher, and
That's hilarious.
and one of our catchers. We had a great group of guys there. It was a lot of fun that year.
So your odyssey, it is a baseball odyssey. I mean, we mentioned like he's a baseball grinder, Josh Wilson, because again, this starts you get the trade, and then now you become a free agent. You sign Washington now this offseason?
So the whole
So you were at the Rockies for a year.
with the Rockies just for a year. I had a good year in Colorado Springs, but unfortunately, there was a guy named Troy Tulowitzki who's in Double-A. Tulo got the late August or
Yeah.
September call up
He
that
had a
year.
huge.
Yeah.
Huge
So
September, too.
Tulo was on his way. So they didn't have much use for me anymore. Understandable, I guess. So I had cleared waivers earlier in the season. When I finished my rehab assignment, I was DFA'd and cleared and stayed there. So then I signed a deal though with the Nationals that off season. Went to camp with them and made the team for the first time. And it was another one. I was not a good player there. I was probably the worst player in the National League that year. I started out, I think, 0 for 19 there with Washington. I'd probably only played in, I don't know, less than 10 games. one start, and I was leading the National League in errors.
No, come on.
Yeah, it weren't all my fault. Like one of them, I'm like diving in the hole, and I get up, and
no chance to throw the guy.
no
but you
chance
do it
to throw
anyway.
the guy out, and I short hopped him. No other runners advanced. So the guy just got first base, but I get an error. I got an error for that play on a ball I had to dive
Was
in
it
the
at
hole
home?
for. This was at home in Washington. So
Looking out for the pitcher.
pretty tough. But I was absolutely terrified of being in the big leagues. It was completely nerve-wracking. I'd go home and try to put on Baseball Tonight or Sports Center, and even just watching baseball made me sick to my stomach.
How long did that last?
It lasted until I got DFA'd again by Washington in early May and claimed by Tampa. And it was one of the first series in Tampa. I get there, and Joe Madden calls me into his office. He says, welcome to the club. We got a road trip coming up to Toronto. I don't know if I'm going to get you in tomorrow, but I think, one of the next 2 days I'm going to get you in there. And so I get in there, and I'm playing third base, and AJ Burnett is on that club in Toronto that year. And AJ, one of the best teammates you could ever have. Even as a young player, going back to the Marlins, my first couple camps, AJ was the guy that, was ready to pump you up, make you feel like you belonged, and, was one of the few guys that would go out of his way to do that.
Isn't that interesting? It's just exact opposite of what, if you're looking from the outside, you're not aware of that.
Yeah.
Right? Best teammates.
Yeah.
One of the best teammates ever. And he did that for me when I was a young kid in camp with the Marlins, told me, I could play shortstop behind him anytime. And so here I am now, starting third base at a game in Toronto for the Devil Rays. And Brian Butterfield is their third base coach. And Butters asked me, he's like, how you doing, man? And I'm like, honest to God, it was the first time I ever admitted that I was terrified. Usually most guys, you doing okay, and you try to, act tough and confident. And I just flat out told him, I was like, I'm scared.
Did that not feel
How
good,
about
though,
that?
just to get that off your chest?
Well, and
What made you do it at that point, by the way? Because you kept that inside you for a while.
I mean, yeah, for quite a while.
What do you think made you just forget it? Here's the truth.
It was a little bit of relief, and he looked straight at me and he just said, you wouldn't be normal if you weren't. He's like, believe me, so many guys out here feel the same thing you. And it was kind of the first time, that I ever kind of exhaled. And here it is. It's the opposing team's third base coach.
So cool.
And the only
That's
reason he'd talked to me was because AJ told him that we'd played together with the Marlins in spring training and stuff, and AJ told him to go out and say hi to me, and really it really turned around my career.
Isn't that amazing?
And so is that
Opposing third base coach.
Wait, so just the fact that you said I'm terrified, and he says it wouldn't be normal if you weren't. That kind of started your career.
It just made me
turnaround.
realize that I wasn't alone. That uncomfortability is a normal thing in the big leagues. I mean, you're out there playing in front of people. You're trying to perform for your teammates.
Highest level.
At the highest level
Yep.
against the best players
And
in the
it's
world.
really
And it's hard.
hard.
And it's
Yeah.
really, really hard. And when you're making errors or you think you're not playing well, I mean, that can snowball on you real fast. And it definitely had gotten to that point with me. And then the next thing you know, the Devil Rays are playing one of these series in Orlando because they're trying to build a fan base down there. Not too many people went to the games in St. Pete. So I get this series in Orlando where I had just played the couple years before in Double-A. They were a Double-A club. And so we do this series in Orlando, and it's like, wow, felt like home. I mean, it felt like home to me. I'm back. I'm in a Double-A ballpark. I have this kind of, tiny glimmer of confidence, and we're playing the Rangers there. I get a couple more starts and had a couple good games. And next thing you know, I ended up, playing close to 100 games for Tampa that year. And I did okay for most of the year. I ended up kind of hitting the wall towards the end of the year again. But I played okay there, played a bunch of shortstop and second base. And it was the first time I ever felt like I might actually belong there and felt like I could have a career at the major league level.
By the way, these exhibition games in Orlando, or
No, these were major
regular
league
season?
These were regular
I don't
major
remember
league.
that. Wow.
I
Yeah,
don't
regular
either.
season
Wow.
major league games in Orlando. Yeah, against the Texas Rangers. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that year you also pitched for the first time.
It's
You've
one
had,
of the best Texas Ranger teams we've seen the last
oh,
few
that's
years.
true too.
Yeah. They were
Monstrous.
Yeah.
doing very good. Yeah, they had some good clubs there. End up pitching against the Marlins. Managed to get out of it with a 0 somehow. I got my good buddy and former roommate Josh Willingham to break a bat and ground out. Or I think
How
he
good
actually
did
got a
that
base hit.
feel?
I think he got a base hit actually, if I remember. He broke his bat. I broke his bat, but he got a base hit.
But I think that's a win-win for you.
It's a
You
win-win.
get your buddy a hit, you break his bat.
So it's
Such a good
funny.
thing.
So since I never got my first hit framed in the big leagues, I got my first broken bat framed in the big.
that's even
So I
better.
got the shadow box of my first pitching experience with Hammer's broken bat all
I
framed
love
up.
it.
And,
I love it.
Yeah.
Did you get him to sign it?
Yeah, he signed it. It says thanks for laying it in there for me.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Was there a story behind the pitching that you were getting ready for it by you?
Yeah. Well, we were getting beat. We were getting beat pretty bad. It was heading into the 8th inning. We're on the road in Florida against the Marlins. Joe comes down.
Of course, it's your former team.
Yeah, of course it is. Has to be.
Yeah.
So I got a bunch of friends over there. Yeah, and Joe Madden just walks down to the end of the dugout and he says, hey, Willie, hey, when's the last time you pitched? And I'm pretty sure I could have told him. I'm pretty sure it didn't matter what I told him. Yeah. I was going in. As long as I told him, Little League, as long as I told him I'd pitched ever, he was putting me in. But I told him I pitched in high school or whatever. So he said, okay, you're pinch hitting. I think the pitcher was up, second or whatever in the bottom of the 8th. And he's like, you're going to go hit and then you're going into pitch. And so, or I guess in the top of the 8th and pitch in the bottom of the 8th. So, yeah, that was it. I went out there. Raul Casanova was our catcher. He comes out and he says, hey, Poppy, all fastballs. I was like, you're the boss. So I just chucked him in there, tried to light up the radar gun a couple times. I think I hit 88 that day.
Ooh.
Chucked one over Jason Wood's head, who was another former teammate. But I think I got Hanley Ramirez to pop up and get an out. And I think the round out the inning was Dan Ugla hit an absolute missile lined out to third base. So,
That's great.
yeah.
Some good names.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about pitching in high school. I just saw in 2023, it was David Shields broke the single season strikeout record from Mount Lebanon, set by Josh Wilson. So,
Wow.
no surprise. No
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah.
I had David at USA. That
Oh, did you?
18U, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
pitcher, man. Oof.
Good pitcher, great kid, great family. Really happy for him.
Broke somebody cool's record, though.
Yeah,
huh?
absolutely. And now the highest drafted player out of high school at Mount Lebanon. So yeah,
cool.
really proud of him. It's great. They built a great program there. My high school coach Ed McCluskey was, one of the best in the state. If not in the whole country. I mean, he really knows his stuff. And now his son Patrick's running that program. He's done a great job. I mean, he develops players, and they've got a great facility to work out in. And David's the latest fruits of all that labor.
And we
So
talked to
it's nice
Donnie,
see.
who also played for him, and now that he's kind of helping his son Patrick
Yeah.
as an assistant. So after that year, and by the way, we were talking about the guys for whom you played in the big leagues. So you've got Manny Octa with the Nats, wasn't it?
Maniac with the Nats. That was with Washington. Yeah, made the team that year under him.
Okay, now we go to
So
Madden.
we could go through
Who's
the
in
list.
Colorado?
Clint Hurdle was
in the
was
big leagues, but
in the big leagues. But I played for Tom Reynolds in AAA.
Tom Reynolds, another name.
That's my bitch coach.
Yeah, yeah. So
I just saw him
TR.
this year. He came to a game.
Yeah.
Said hello.
And then moving along, I ended up so in 2008. After I'd finished that year with the Devil Rays, I got DFA'd and claimed by the Pirates.
All right, here we are now. We go to Indy.
So
for
I go
Trent
to
Jewett.
Indy. So that's a funny one too.
Yeah.
When I got claimed, nobody from the Devil Rays called me. So I got a call from Neil Huntington.
Wait, what?
Yeah, didn't hear. I didn't know I was DFA'd. I didn't know I was on waivers. I had
That's awful.
zero
What?
information.
Oh,
So middle
Did
of
that
the
ever
off
happen
season.
again?
No, I usually always got a heads up because that was the last time I
Unreal.
think
That would
that
be
happened in
standard.
the off season. But
Well,
yeah,
it's just a respect thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
that's terrible.
so Neil Huntington calls me though in like December, and he just goes, "Hey Josh, it's Neil Huntington with the Pirates. We just claimed you on waivers." And I laughed. I thought it was a joke. I literally thought somebody was messing with me. I didn't believe
Bergs,
him.
Mike Berger,
Yeah,
Bergs.
I'm like, no, what?
Yeah, right.
And so I probably got off to a pretty bad start with the Pirates because I think I said like, yeah, right, or whatever to Neil when he told me I got
No, this
claimed.
really is Neil Huntington. He said.
Yeah, he said, really is. Nope, we really did claim you. You're a Pirate now. So, yeah, I'm sure I said my apologies. And, but yeah, I went to camp there. It was John Russell and Neil's first year with the Pirates.
Your reaction, though, when things finally do you realize it is legit, and now you have a chance to play for your hometown team?
I thought it was all coming together. I mean, I really did. I was so excited to be a part of the organization that I grew up watching, and loved, to be quite honest. I mean, any Pittsburgher, I mean, we've got a level of pride that's, unlike most places. And it was no different with me. I mean, I was just so happy to be a part of the Pirates and wanted nothing more than to, put that uniform on and play at PNC Park and be a player that helped the Pirates, get back to some winning ways.
You got to tell us what Huntington said or whoever talked to you eventually about what your opportunity was then going into spring training.
My opportunity, I think, was the same as it ever was just to compete for a job. I don't know if it was the best situation for me. We went in there and had some other veteran guys that I think they just wanted to have around. As a guy that I was still kind of a young player, not a lot of experience, and we had Luis Rivas, who had come from the Twins where JR was. Doug Mankiewicz also, and Chris Gomez. So we had
Dougie.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had three guys that were, veteran presence guys that I think, they preferred. And then Brian Bixler was there in Indianapolis as well, who was kind of their younger player that, was the next, going to be the next guy, for them as far as their plans were concerned. So, I had a decent opportunity there. I didn't play particularly well. I swung it okay in Indy, but the opportunity just never panned out. Just never really materialized. And they had those veteran guys that they preferred, and so a little disappointing for me that I never got to put that uniform on. But nevertheless,
you get to play with some of the guys.
I got to be there.
Right?
I did get to go to camp with them. Just getting to be a part of the organization. Looking back, I mean, that's special. It's still special that I did get to be a part of that organization for a time.
Who were some of the guys? Did you play with Kutch?
Yeah, so Kutch and Neil were both on that Indianapolis team. Steve Pierce, John Van Benscoten. There was some good players there. Obviously, Neil and Kutch and Steve.
Did you run into Donnie then?
So Donnie and I kind of kept flip-flopping. DK had spent the previous year with the Pirates, and
Donnie
then
Kelly,
he was with the Diamondbacks that year and spent that year in Tucson, and then I ended up with the Diamondbacks the following season. So I was kind of following him around a little bit.
Oh, Tucson.
Yeah. Oh boy. What a place.
That was my first 4 spring trainings.
Oh, geez,
All right, now
man.
what? You guys have talked about Colorado Springs, Albuquerque, and now tell us about Tucson.
Oh boy, they had to spray paint.
Tell me that grounds crew guy. What was he like?
Well, they were public works.
Speaking of, this perfect timing.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Major League was filmed there. If that tells you anything, and it gave it way too much.
In that
Yes.
ballpark? It was.
Well,
I didn't know that.
At High Corbett, yeah.
At High
a lot of those
Corbett,
scenes
that's where I
were at
was.
High Corbett, yeah. 100%. That's right. But we played all those games at Tucson Electric, and they were the grounds crew there was Public Works. They did not have. They were publicly
They had their own
owned.
grounds crew.
So they just had 2 guys that were on the Public Works crew.
Whenever they
And
get to it.
They would they'd pour like the like the sand you put on a golf course to like fill
And
the
it'd turn
divots, the
into
green
asphalt.
sand. They just pour that green sand on the field, and that was the
the whole
that was the
field
infield
was-
grass.
Oh man.
It was
Yeah.
a mess.
Total mess. Total mess. It
Well,
was-
it's good
I've
for
heard
an
it's
infielder to
Bill's
learn.
character, right?
Yeah, Bill's character. It's
That's
playing in
true
a
play.
blow dryer is what they always said.
Exactly right.
Awful.
Exactly right.
So how about, I did not know, so really Neil Huntington's first trade, his first trade was in August of that year, in 2008, the big blockbuster. He trades Jason Bay to Boston. Manny Ramirez, part of a 3-team deal. He goes to the Dodgers. A bunch of other players. The Pirates get Andy LaRoche, Brian Morris, Brandon Moss, Craig Hansen. I didn't know you're part of that trade.
Yeah, so I was the player to be named later.
How about that?
At the end of that deal, which I didn't even know for another year or two. Like I didn't realize that it was a part of that deal. I found that out kind of after the fact. So we did okay in Indy there, and just didn't get a chance with the Buccos. But ended up making a playoff push with the Pawtucket Red Sox. Didn't play particularly well there. Probably had a chance to get called up with them, but definitely a missed opportunity. I really stunk at the end of that season.
But in December, you signed with Arizona now.
Yeah, so then moved right along. So I spent my first 7 seasons with the Marlins, and then I played 12 more seasons after that for 13 organizations.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah,
How, talk about grinder.
Yeah, bounced
Just
around
keep going.
quite a lot.
We started running into each other.
Yeah, it's
around
probably
this
that
point.
year. So I was thinking you were probably in Colorado Springs one of those
Colorado
years.
Springs, 2011.
2011,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I had spent 09 with, started that year with.
No, 2010, excuse me.
Okay. Yeah, and I spent 2011 in Reno, and then in Tacoma. So that year in 09, I went from, with the Diamondbacks, went to Reno, which was the inaugural season of the Reno Aces. Spent about a month there, got called up. And that was the year that Bob Melvin was fired, and A.J. Hinch took over. So I played for both Bo Mel and then A.J.
Jeez
there
Louise.
briefly.
Yeah.
And DFA'd, ended up getting claimed by the Padres that year, went to San Diego for about a month, played for Bud Black. DFA'd, about a month after that, picked up by the Mariners, where Jack Zarenchik was the GM at the time. So some good Western PA connections there. Was there for about a month, DFA'd again, cleared waivers this time, ended up in Tacoma, and then got recalled again at the end of the year and finished that year out with the Mariners in 09.
Did you pitch twice that year in 09? Or
Yes.
I think so, right?
Yes.
And
both for the D-backs and the Padres.
in one of those, you pitched a scoreless ninth inning, I think, against the Reds.
Whoopsies.
So, yeah, scoreless ninth, pitched for the Diamondbacks, pitched scoreless against the Reds, got a double play ball from Darnell McDonald,
Oh, man.
I think, to clean that one up.
Golly, how much we're overlapping right
Is
now?
that incredible?
Big D-Mac. Jeez
Yeah.
Louise.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then I ended up in San Diego, and so we're playing an extra inning game in San Diego. Our bullpen's burned. I think it's like
18th
the
inning.
18th inning.
18th inning.
So I got to go in there against the D-backs, team I just got let go by.
You're almost to the point where you could not pitch against a former team.
It was always against former teams.
Yeah,
It was
had
always
to, yeah.
pitched against guys I
you had
knew.
a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
And I had just pitched for them, like a few weeks prior. So
they were a little intimidated. of
so
course.
they'd already seen my stuff. I think was the big problem. They knew what I had.
Yeah.
They had a great scouting report.
Yeah, they did. They had the book on me, but so I had 2 outs though. I got 2 outs, 2 guys on base. I'd given up. I walked a guy, and Felipe Lopez had a base hit. So I got 2 on and 2 outs. Mark Reynolds up, and I got a 0-2. And
You're
Mark,
like, I got the swing and miss.
you're thinking for sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, he strikes out 200 times a year.
Yeah.
I got him.
This is the one I'm going to get. Yeah. And so I'm throwing breaking balls. I can't get him to chase anything. Ends up getting back to a 3-2 count, and threw him a fastball, and he hits an absolute nuke to right field.
Oh, no.
Three-run bomb, game winner. So, yeah, I thought I was going to get out of it, had a chance at a dub, but yeah, Mark had other ideas, and yeah, as they say, you'd like to have that one back.
Well, pitching, so you pitched in the 18th inning, you pitched 4 times. Do you like the automatic runner rule at second base in extra innings?
I'll tell you what, as a scout, I liked it.
Yeah, well, broadcasters too.
You love it as a scout.
yeah, when you're not in the field, it seems
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
a little better. Yeah.
As a baseball guy, no, I can't stand it. But I would say it definitely serves its purpose. Games don't get much past the 11th or 12th inning max. I mean, you just you don't see those games dragging out. It puts pressure, on guys to make pitches. So it definitely does serve its purpose. But when you're talking about the way teams are competing and the way you're supposed to be building rosters, I mean, this is you're taking those elements out of the game. Teams have a competitive advantage if they have guys that can pitch multiple innings in the bullpen, if they have starting pitchers that pitch deep into games, and that's part of the game. It should be part of the game. But, as it is, the way the game is, I guess there's some more excitement. You got these bullpens with guys that can, throw it hard and show you a bunch of stuff. And, that's exciting in and of itself too. So, As far as the way the game is constructed right now, I mean, I don't have a huge issue with it. I wish it was still the way it was. Extra innings should be extra innings, and you should have to really earn it. But it definitely serves its purpose, and you do get through those games. And if it keeps some guys healthy, then I don't have a huge issue with it.
I don't know if have you. You and I have talked about it. Fort, do you like the automatic runner rule?
I don't. I wish it would start a little bit later if they're going to do it.
Yeah, give it 2 or 3 innings at least,
give it 2 or
right?
3 innings, yeah.
Yeah, regular ball.
I mean, you're never going to hear about that 18th inning when he comes in.
I know.
Gives
These
some
stories.
Mark
Steve
Reynolds.
Glass always said when they change all these rules, they forget like baseball is
The
all
stories
about the
die.
stories.
Yeah.
And if you have one of those guys, I mean, if you have a club like like a Mitch Moreland or one of those guys that, you got a first baseman that can throw 95 and
I
he's
was
a
on
college
deck.
closer. Yeah, I mean,
You were on deck.
I was on deck. Charlie Blackman's hitting, and like, I'm out on deck. I'm like, I don't want to face him.
no,
He's
I
throwing
mean,
94.
He's throwing 95
no
on the
way.
low. It's just
Yeah, he's got a little bit of an angle. I'm like, this isn't a position player.
and that's a serious competitive advantage for clubs. So like I
Yeah.
said, I don't love it. It serves a purpose, but I wish it would force teams to think about that a little more
Yeah.
and build their rosters accordingly. And I think that's part of the game. Should be
No
part
doubt.
of the game.
No doubt.
What
the strategy dies real
so
fast.
did you like the scouting with the Tigers? How many years did you do it?
So I did it for 6 years. I did. Going to the ballpark. I mean, being a part of the game it's the greatest thing on earth. And going to the ballpark every single day and seeing the other guys, getting to watch a ball game, getting to see these kids go out and live their dream, compete. I mean, that's the best. That's the best. And that part of scouting I loved. You sit on the computer for
Yeah.
for
You hear that
quite a
the
lot of your
scouts.
time. You're in the car a lot. The feedback doesn't come quickly. I mean, you write your reports and you sit there and you kind of wait and you see in a few years how you did.
Yeah. Do you think I asked Donnie Kelly that. Do you think you're a good scout?
I mean, I don't know. I think that remains to be seen.
Because some of the players that you've had reports on now, that many years, they've gotten to the big leagues.
Yeah, you've had some guys. There have been some players that have gotten there. Most of the ones that a guy like an O'Neal Cruz. I mean, these guys, you knew he was going to play in the big leagues. You see the talent, and that stuff's not hard to see. A guy like O'Neal Cruz, that can run and throw, and he's a monster. That guy's pretty easy to say. That guy's going to be something pretty good.
All right. Is there anybody, Josh, that you saw 6 years ago in the minor leagues somewhere, and you thought this guy, and you could put a report in on him, and when he got to the big leagues, maybe you put a report on him, and the Tigers, which happens all the time, they kind of fluff it off, but maybe now you've seen him and you're going, you know what, I was right on that guy,
I don't.
or wrong for that matter.
Yeah.
Don't be too humble. Let's go.
Yeah,
No,
I say that Donnie won't admit it. Come on, that's okay to be.
Well, as like a younger scout, I mean, I'm still trying to learn. I mean, as a scout, I think you're always probably kind of learning because you see guys that are good players, talented players. They're going to be good. You don't really know exactly, how good or what they're going to be. I mean, you have questions on a guy like O'Neal Cruz, for example, that, everybody wondered if he was play short. So personally, I always thought he would play short. I didn't see any reason why he couldn't. Just because he's huge. He's the most athletic guy that I've seen, so, maybe he has to do it a little different, but, and he lasted probably a lot longer at short than most guys did. But I don't know that there was any guys that I was probably way ahead of the field on that, other guys were just completely off. I don't think I had any of those guys. I know there's a player named Joey Ortiz who's with Milwaukee now who, I liked from the first time I saw him, thought he'd be a good everyday player in the big leagues.
Good call.
But I'm sure other guys did too. I mean, I don't think I was the only guy to like him.
Humility, Brownie. It's called humility.
I know.
I mean, players like
Well, let
that
me
I
ask you
saw,
this.
like Gunnar Henderson and Adley Rutschman. I mean, everybody thought
It's
those
hard
guys
not
were
to
good.
think that those guys are going to be good
Yeah.
at some point. Do you think that
You didn't see the Josh Wilson.
I was going to say no. That's a question,
Right,
Because you were a premier defensive player,
Yeah.
and so now
You don't
is it
win- you
hard
don't
for
win-
you not to think that way as a scout? Like that guy, you know what I mean? You got to bring yourself down.
It goes back to what I said to Donnie Kelly. You do not win a championship without a DK
Yeah.
and a Josh
Right,
Wilson.
right.
Those bench
Yeah.
players matter the most
Yeah.
in the biggest times. The bullpen and the bench
Yeah.
always win championships.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you need those players. Yeah, and really, I mean, those are the guys that you're searching for. You know, we get caught up with trying to find the star player guys, but you're going to have a heck of a time acquiring them. I mean, really, in today's game, I mean, trades just don't seem to happen, and teams are so reluctant to give up on players or trade away players that, you know, have star potential.
They'll let them kind of die nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, really, they're just going to hang on to them, and even if they're not going to pan out, I mean, there's not many. I don't think there's many, you know, front offices out there right now that are willing to take those risks and risk, you know, losing those type of players. You know, they're going to hold them and hopefully get the most out of them. Yeah, the where you can really win, I think, is definitely with those type of guys that somebody thinks is maybe just a AAA player that you think can actually be a really good bench player in the big leagues, somebody that you can get 200 or 250 at-bats of in the big leagues and move them all around the field. I mean, because that's the guy that helps your everyday players, your star players, you know, get the rest that they need or you know, get the day off against a tough pitcher or whatever the case may be. That keeps you above water. They keep you competitive in games and help you win. And I mean, you know, we see this now. We see this with the way teams, you know, construct their rosters and, you know, have versatility and flexibility. You know, they get these guys that can move around the field and, you know, are solid contributors. They may not be the superstars, but they can help you win in a lot of different ways. Yeah, and finding those type of guys is definitely where you can, you know, make a difference on the scouting side for sure.
I got one more. Your scouting process, right? So you're going in, you know, probably tell kids all the time, you know, take a lot of respect in everything you do. What did you watch for to give a little hint or a little help to kids or parents out there that are you know, hoping that their kid makes it to the pinnacle? What were some of the things you would watch for and maybe even cross a guy out if you saw?
Well, you know, to cross guys out completely is difficult. I mean,
Amen.
You got to really not like a guy to just kind of to be completely off a guy, you know, at first glance. You know, you got to give guys an opportunity, especially in the scouting world, because you only get a limited number of games to watch players before you got to make a decision. So, you know, sometimes you're seeing a player on the field that may not be exactly what the player really is. So you got to be cautious. And I mean, that's something I learned early, because I definitely did that to some guys and have done it. And you find out, oh no, I was wrong. This guy was just kind of early cold weather or whatever the case was. You know, maybe something going on off the field that a guy just had a bad series and you saw him bad. But, you know, really the things that really turn you off, and it's the same for, I think, whether you're a scout, a manager, a coach, is just the guys that don't seem like they're interested, guys that are going through the motions, guys that don't seem like they're putting work in, guys not taking pride in their work. You know, that makes it hard, because what you're looking for as a scout is, you know, one, you're looking for talented players that are going to perform and be good, but really you don't want to end up in a scenario where you recommend a guy and you acquire him and then your manager doesn't like him because he's not a good guy. He doesn't work. The character doesn't fit. You know, that's worst case scenario. I mean, if a guy shows up and he can run, he can throw, he's got power, and he just doesn't perform, well, you know, hey, you're wrong. But, you know, if the guy's working and he's a good character guy, and maybe he can do something, run a little bit or play defense, and there's some way that you find some use out of him, well, you know, at least you feel good that your manager is not like, hey, you know, what's the deal with this guy? But, you know, you end up signing a guy that could be as talented as anybody, but, you know, just has a bad work ethic or whatever, and your manager just doesn't like him. I mean, then that's the one where, as a scout, I think you probably end up feeling a little worse. But yeah, fortunately for me, I mean, I haven't been doing this very long. I haven't really run into those scenarios, but those are kind of the fears that you have as a scout. Is I wanted to make sure if I was putting a good grade on a guy and was saying he was a player I wanted to acquire, it was going to be somebody that AJ as the manager was going to want to have on the team. You know, no matter how well he performed, you know, to some degree.
Hey, we're going to keep enjoying our fat bottom Betties and our coffees. We're going to keep chatting with Josh. Join us for another episode. We're going to keep talking here about, we got a lot to talk to. Where he got the nickname, the Paper Boy. We're going to talk about his dad. Mike going to talk about the pre and post game. And we also want to tell you about David Allen Clothing. Some of our guests received gift cards to David Allen Clothing, located on Washington Road in Mount Lebanon. Building a custom wardrobe is just a click away. Go to davidallencustomclothing.com or stop by that showroom. Thanks to Josh Wilson. We'll continue talking. I noticed on all the pre and post-game football games and all these shows, what they do to keep people into it, they act like they're joking and stuff in their life. So we'll keep talking. We'll fade to black, and then we'll just keep talking. Make sure you like and subscribe with all that stuff. But anyways, how do you like? Yeah, how do you like this? Pretty good stuff. Thanks to Josh. This is really good stuff. Yeah, this is stuff. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I remember. Did you ever come across anybody like that before?